Welcome to Spot Review. I'll be talking about two movies, Coco and The Disaster Artist. So let's start with Coco. Coco is a new Pixar film that came out. Now, going into it, I had no idea what to expect. All I knew was it was about Day of the Dead, or just set during Day of the Dead. That's it. That's all I knew. So watching this movie, the visuals, I have to say, were outstanding. I really enjoyed the visual fidelity of when you get to the Day of the Dead area, the Land of the Dead part of the movie. It's so awe-inspiring. It's just this huge world you see. That's just this big landscape of just this big, colorful city that has all this verticality to it. There's some, obviously it's horizontal as well, but it's mostly vertical. Like there's a lot of like these abstract buildings and all this stuff. It's very, very whimsical in a way. I just loved it. I really loved the visuals of it. I found myself just kind of looking around mostly in the movie. I wasn't like, I was looking at the characters as well, but I was also looking around because it was like, oh man, look at this world here. You know, you have purple buildings or whatever. It was just very gorgeous to look at. I could say easily, if the movie was a silent film, no dialogue or nothing, and all you had was just the visuals of the movie, I think the visuals would be enough to hold the whole movie from start to finish. I would probably stare at this movie all throughout the whole time just because the visuals are that good. The character models are all unique in their own way, especially the skeletons. When you see these other dead family members and all this kind of stuff, where they're all skeletons, they're very different. They all look different. They all look unique. Because usually when you think of skeletons, it's just like, oh well, it's skeletons. I mean, they don't look that different amongst a lot of other people, unless like you look at them height-wise, But overall, the movie does a very good job of keeping each character very unique and recognizable. You're never gonna find yourself looking at this movie like, who's that? I don't know who that is. You're never gonna like say that because these characters all look very specific to their own personality or what have you. So I liked it for that. I really liked the visuals for that. It really popped in the movie. I liked it more visually than Inside Out. Inside Out was fine. It was well animated and all that, sure, but I think this movie does a little bit better job with kind of showing what Pixar Animation can really do. I think it really shows how much time and effort put into the background and with the characters. I really think this movie shines in that regard, especially when you look at the dancing numbers. When there's parts of the movie where they have these dancing segments where the main characters are either trying to get an attention of someone, so they start playing mariachi music, or if they're in a contest to go somewhere, they play mariachi music. And these choreography scenes, these scenes have very good choreography. They're very visually stunning, and they're visually pleasing to look at. I found myself just enjoying the dancing and the music in of itself, just visually. The music. I'm not a fan of mariachi music or the music within the movie has, but the movie really took this genre of music and really made it really entertaining for me. I really enjoyed the music. I found myself actually like humming to some of the beats. I really found myself kind of like moving with the beat of each of the songs. They really stood out to me. The one that stood out to me the most, which unfortunately I can't remember the name of the song. I know, crazy, but the one where the young boy and the skeleton guy was in that mariachi contest to get to his favorite guitarist or whatever. He was in that mariachi contest. I can't remember the name of that song, but that was one of my favorite songs in that movie. I know, I can't remember the name of the song, but it's one of my favorite songs. So the music was good. It was very nice to listen to. The story. So this will be a little bit of spoiler territory. So if you don't want to get spoilers, I'll put the timestamp in the description below, or just on the screen, whichever one you find. Just look for it. Okay. Click that, and you'll skip the spoilers. All right. Fair enough. You've been warned. The story is kind of simple. The young boy wants to be a musician. Family doesn't like musicians because his great-grandfather kind of left the family to play music, so they kind of condemned music from that. The The great grandmother was like, "Fuck music, I'm done with music, no more music, fuck music, music is bad." So throughout the generations, that kind of became a thing. The main character, man, I can't remember his name. Can't remember any names. Uh, he wants to be a musician. Like his favorite idol, who I also can't remember the name of, which is fucking amazing. I know, right? You guys are amazed at this review, but he wants to be like him. So he tries to steal his guitar because he doesn't have one to play this mariachi contest, so that he could get his name out there. So on. So he steals a dead person's guitar. He gets teleported to the land of the dead, and from then on, he's trying to get back to reality by getting the blessing of what he thinks is his great grandfather, the musician guy that he idolizes. He's going to him to get his blessing, get back because he can't get back without a blessing, and his great grandmother's like, "You're not going back without saying no to music," and he's like, "Fuck that, I want to do music." So there you go. So, the plot twists on this movie are pretty generic and pretty typical. I kind of knew that the skeleton guy with the hat, I can't remember the names, that he kind of tags along in this adventure, so that he could get his picture in on a display in the real world so that he could be remembered, and so that he could also cross over to the real world during Day of the Dead. So he travels with him, and you find out that he is the main character's real great grandfather, which I thought was a little too obvious just by looking at the hair. You look at the hair, it's like, oh, it's kind of done in a similar way as the main character. So you kind of think about that. You also think about the guitar guy, the idol that the guy looks up to. It was like kind of obvious that he was gonna be the antagonist. Like it was kind of obvious that the great grandmother was the red herring. Like they kind of made you want to think that his great grandmother was the antagonist of the movie. And it's like, oh, okay, are they gonna really commit to this, or are they gonna be like, well, and they didn't commit to that. They actually kind of threw her to the side and be like, okay, she's not the real villain. This guy is the real villain. Again, these plot twists don't really ruin the experience, because if you've seen a Pixar film, you kind of expect that within their story. Their stories aren't very complex or very unpredictable. It's pretty straightforward for their movies, so it's not too bad, but it's just like, I wish it was done a little bit more differently or subtly, or just something a little bit different, I guess. What else? I think that's all I could say about the story, because the plot twists are kind of typical, you'd expect from them. Oh, the other thing I was surprised is they actually showcased a murder. They showed a character actually getting murdered on screen, which I wasn't expecting Pixar to do. Usually, I was expecting Pixar to do the generic, either let's hint a character got killed off by some way, or just having the character be killed off screen or something. But they actually showed a character drinking poison and then dying on screen, which was like, Pixar showed this. Animated this. They showed this it's a family movie, and they showed a live murder on screen, which surprised me. I did not expect that for Pixar to do, which is something. But other than that, the story is kind of typical for what you'd expect. I like the story. I think the story is very well. It keeps your interest from start to finish. That's it for spoilers. So let's get to my review of this movie, my score. I would give Coco a solid 9 out of 10. If the plot wasn't too predictable in some ways, it might have been a better movie, but again, these plot twists didn't really ruin the whole movie, but it did bump it down just a little bit, just because I just wish they did something else to them. And that's it. That's really all I gotta say about Coco. It's a good movie. I like that it explains this whole culture about Day of the Dead and all that kind of stuff. That was really interesting, so there you have it, Coco, 9 out of 10. Go check it out. Especially if you have family. Check it out. The next movie, The Disaster Artist. This movie, I was afraid I was gonna hate this movie, because I was going in thinking, oh, this movie's just gonna be nothing but room jokes. Like, it's gonna be going through a laundry list of things to check off, like, oh, the fans want this, the fans want that. And I'm happy to say It does not do that. This movie really focuses mostly on Tommy Wiseau's and Greg Sestero's friendship more than anything else in the movie. It does showcase the making of the room, but it's also just about their friendship. The only thing that I would kind of criticize is I think the beginning could be a little bit shortened a little bit, and the ending could have been done better. I think if they cut some stuff in the first half of the movie, they would have had more time to make the ending a little bit more satisfying in a way. But other than that, the movie was entertaining. I really liked it. It really surprised me that this movie was actually so uh, clever in how it was adapting the story from the book The Disaster Artist, written by Greg Sestero. So I really liked that. The other thing I just didn't I kind of was taken out of was James Franco's brother's performance. He played Greg Sestero while James Franco played Tommy Wiseau. And James Franco as Tommy Wiseau was amazing. He did such a good job. He got the accent right. He almost sounded and looked just like Tommy Wiseau. It was unworldly. It was like, wow, this guy almost sounds like Tommy Wiseau. It was so spot on with his impersonation of him that it was just very entertaining to see him portray this weird, kooky guy. While his brother, who played Greg Sestero, just did not really have what it took. He had the looks of Greg Sestero, but every time he talked, it just did not sound like him. It just sounded like Justin Bieber trying to be, Greg Sestero, and it just did not work. It there were some scenes that it did, but it was the majority of them. It was like, this doesn't sound like Greg Sestero, and it was just kind of jarring. Like, it would take me out of the experience in some ways. While James Franco kind of pulled me back in, his brother pulled me back out. It's weird because when you see these other actors who portrayed these other people who were in the room, like the actress that reenacted the actress of Claudette in the room, looked just like her. The actor who played Denny looked just like Danny. All these actors that they got to play these roles looked like these actors that they were trying to portray, while you have James Franco's brother, who is just kind of like the black sheep. Like, he's just kind of there, and he doesn't really sound like Rick Sestero. He looks like him in some ways, but it's just, I feel like that he's missing the mark in some. But that's kind of how I view it, at least. But the movie was entertaining nonetheless. I love the movie in a lot of ways. It just kind of surprised me how well the movie was done and how serious it was. It didn't feel like it was doing it for money. Like, it wasn't a cash grab on the room itself or whatever. It didn't feel like it was pandering to the fan base too much. The fan service in the movie was well done. It was done in a way that was more rewarding than, okay, here's your jokes, here's more jokes. Oh, remember this in the room? Like, it wasn't anything like that. It was very like, okay, the fan service was kind of done in a way that helped the story move along. It was balanced very well. It wasn't like forced. It didn't feel like that. It was just kind of mooching off of that fan base. So the other thing is that I would kind of say is, as I'm wrapping up this review, would be I don't necessarily know if I'd recommend this to people who have not seen The Room. If you have seen The Room, I definitely recommend this movie. It's a kind of a no-brainer. I say go check it out. But if you have no interest in seeing The Room, if you don't really care, I don't necessarily know if this movie would make you change your perspective or if you'd even enjoy it. If you're curious, I guess I would say go check it out. If you have the time, check it out. It's interesting on its own. I think the Disaster Artist can stand on its own. I just don't know how much entertainment a person who doesn't know about The Room would have with that movie. I can't really say. There was something else, but I can't think of it now. Well, that's all I could think of. So, if I were to rate The Room, The Disaster Artist, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. No, an 8 out of 10. I'll give it an 8 out of 10 because I think It does a lot of things well. There's some parts that it could have done better. Oh, I remember now. Jesus, I just thought of this. Uh, some of the scenes in the room were clearly dubbed, right? Like, when we watch the room, there are scenes that Tommy Wiseau dubbed over. When they did these scenes in The Disaster Artist, they did not do that. They kind of made a better movie, a better quality movie in The Disaster Artist, but not the way that they did it in The Room. Like it just didn't have these scenes where it was clearly dubbed or whatever. It kind of takes the magic out of these scenes, but other than that, the pacing was kind of decent. It was fine. It wasn't too bad, but it could have been a little bit tighter. Uh, the fan service was well balanced. Didn't feel out of hand. The celebrity cameos were ridiculous. That was the other thing that kind of bothered me. It just kind of felt like that they were just parading them in and forcing them into the story, which was just a little too much. Some cameos worked, like Bryan Cranston's cameo. His worked fine. Like it was like, oh, cool. But then you see others that are just like, do we really need them to be here? Like, I don't know. That's just me. That's it for this review. Again, I give The Room an 8 out of 10. I recommend it if you like The Room, if you're curious about how it's made, all that kind of stuff. Check it out. If you're on the fence, if you haven't seen The Room, maybe check it out. Maybe see it with a friend. Who knows? See you guys in the next video. Hope you guys have a nice one.